On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I am truly delighted to welcome you as we gather to celebrate the establishment of the Alan Grubman Chair in Media and Entertainment, but also to discuss the extraordinary journey of one of our most accomplished alums. When people think of Brooklyn Law School, they might reference academic rigor. They certainly will talk about the pursuit of social justice and, importantly, our tradition of accessible legal education. And while all of that is true, what makes Brooklyn Law School truly special is embodied in all who, like Alan, call this institution their alma mater. From humble beginnings in Crown Heights to standing at the pinnacle of the entertainment world, Alan's relentless work ethic, shrewd intellect, and unwavering commitment to his clients, his family, and thankfully Brooklyn Law School are legendary. Alan's remarkable contributions to the legal community and the entertainment world have not only earned him an indelible place in the annals of our profession, as well as a spot in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but he's also inspired countless Brooklyn students to pursue their dreams with the same fervor and commitment. Alan's journey from a Brooklyn Law School graduate to one of the preeminent deal makers in entertainment as the undisputed eminence gris of the entertainment bar exemplifies the transformative power of a Brooklyn Law School education. As we celebrate this historic milestone, let us renew our commitment to fostering an inclusive environment that encourages innovation, nurtures talent, and upholds the highest standards of legal education. I extend my heartfelt congratulations to Alan and his entire family for this well-deserved honor. My sincere personal gratitude for your enduring generosity to Brooklyn Law School. May the Alan Grubman Chair in Media and Entertainment stand as a lasting tribute to the excellence and impact that you have made on the entertainment world and Brooklyn Law School. Again, thank you, Alan. You exemplify not only the peak of professional achievement, but the very heart of what it means to be a Brooklyn Law School alum. I know that Joe Crea is here with us in spirit this evening and is extremely proud of all you have accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frank. And I just want to, I'm David Meyer, the Dean of the school here, and wanted to add my own thanks and welcome to all of you for being here, and of course a special warm welcome and thanks to Alan and Deborah Grubman and to their family for being here. It really is an honor to have all of you here, and to our very special guests, Brian and Hillary Gumbel, as well. This is such an honor to, and I look out at all of you assembled here, which include not only really so many distinguished alumni, so many of our faculty, students, staff. It's really a spectacular turnout reflecting this community. And this is, of course, I think the spectacular turnout reflects that this is a very significant day in the proud 123-year history of Brooklyn Law School. This is really a dual celebration. It's, of course, a celebration of a major gift, the third largest single gift in the history of this law school, and one that will have a large and multi-dimensional impact on the school for years to come, strengthening our faculty, expanding opportunities for our students, and raising Brooklyn Law School's reputation nationally and beyond. The new Alan Grubman Chair in Media and Entertainment Law will enable us to recruit a senior nationally recognized leader in the field to join our faculty, someone who will bring immediate reputational heft and deep experience and insight into the rapidly evolving legal and economic landscape of the media and entertainment world. But we are also simultaneously celebrating the generosity and vision of Alan and Deborah Grubman in making all of this possible, and their bond with Brooklyn Law School. Because one of the things that we are very much celebrating this evening is not only the creation of a new faculty chair and all that that will mean for this school, which is plenty, but also additionally that chair will bear the name of Alan Grubman and will showcase to the world that Alan is one of our own. Alan Grubman, as Frank has alluded, is in many respects the personification of the Brooklyn Law School story, a reflection of the very qualities that distinguish this school and make us most proud. Brooklyn Law School remains today as it was at its founding in 1901 and as it was in 1964 when Alan enrolled here, a school of access and transformation, committed to the mission of welcoming talented and ambitious students from every conceivable background and providing them with the education and the power to lead and transform not only their own families and trajectories, but for generations to come, but communities and the broader society. I know that this identity of Brooklyn Law School is fiercely important to Alan. We discussed it in his office at the very time that we were discussing the possibility of this gift, and it is very much his own story as well. As Frank has also suggested, a son of Brooklyn, born and raised to a family of modest means, but his talent and drive carried him here to Brooklyn Law School and then to an education that prepared him for the highest levels of leadership and success. And the legendary career that he has gone on to lead continues to have a transformative impact on the lives and families of his clients, on the very culture of this country and creative communities through their work and through his own, and on media, entertainment, business, and on even entire cities. And I'm thinking of you, Cleveland, home of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We could not be prouder of Alan Grubman's Brooklyn law origins, nor more grateful to him and to Deborah for their faithful commitment to stay involved, to give back to the students who now follow in his footsteps. And I know that every student in this room and every student at this school is inspired to think what might be possible for them and in their own careers by knowing of Alan's example and his passions. And finally, and importantly, one of the things we are most excited to celebrate tonight in this enormously generous gift is that the chair that the Grubmans are creating today will have an impact that goes well beyond even the star scholar that they will enable us to bring to our community and what that alone will mean for students. And that's because the Alan Grubman Chair in Media and Entertainment Law lays the foundation for a still more ambitious expansion of Brooklyn Law School's national leadership in the field of media and entertainment law. Already, Brooklyn Law School ranks among the very top law schools in the country in these fields, rated number 2 last year by Billboard magazine, among leading law schools for top music lawyers, number 9 by Hollywood Reporter on its list of top law schools for aspiring entertainment lawyers. That recognition, of course, reflects first the outsized leadership of our alumni, Alan, of course, but also many other distinguished alumni who are here in this room this evening and beyond. And it also reflects a constellation of other assets that make Brooklyn Law School a natural leader nationally in this field. A core and growing cadre of nationally prominent faculty in media law, in sports law, and in entertainment law. Our location in the heart of one of the world's leading media and entertainment capitals, a web of connections with industry leaders here in New York that creates internship and job opportunities, and a significant cohort of talented, ambitious students, much like Alan himself, who now choose Brooklyn Law School specifically because of our reputation and strength in that field. So Alan and Deborah's gift and the recruitment of the inaugural Grubman Chair is the crucial first step toward a broader strategic ambition of building a center with resources and the faculty that will make Brooklyn Law the hands-down national destination for any serious engagement and insight into the future of media and entertainment. And so I thank Alan and Deborah for their vision, their great generosity in making this possible for us to begin this journey. I look forward to opening the search for the first Grubman Chair this summer, and I look forward to working together to make this dream a reality. It's now my great privilege to turn the podium over to my colleague, Jody Balsam, a member of our faculty, who is herself a prominent figure in the world of sports and entertainment law, a longtime counsel for the National Football League before and otherwise in practice before joining our faculty and helping to lead our efforts here at the school. So, Jody.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you, everyone, for being here. As Dave alluded to, among the hats I wear at Brooklyn Law School is general factotum for all things sports and entertainment. I'm honored to have the opportunity to express gratitude on behalf of the law school, its faculty, its students for Alan's generous gift, and to do that at an event that epitomizes the intersection of media, entertainment, and sports. As legendary journalist and sportscaster Bryant Gumbel will interview the nation's most accomplished entertainment lawyer, Alan Grubman. You can't get bigger than that without traveling to Vegas this weekend for the Kansas City Chiefs and Taylor Swift. So Brooklyn Law School has long thrived as an intellectual and professional hothouse in the field of media and entertainment law. Just look around the room at the alumni who came to pay tribute to Alan. As much as we all welcomed Dave as our new dean last year, many of us were just as excited with the extra dividend of his wife, Amy Gaida, joining our faculty to teach media law and related subjects. With its advantage of its location in the media capital of the world, Brooklyn has drawn on a deep bench of practicing lawyers to teach and mentor our students pursuing careers in the field. You'll hear from some of those students shortly about how Brooklyn's reputation in media, entertainment, and sports drew them to our campus. Alan's gift takes us to the next level. That his gift is dedicated to endowing a chair confirms and builds on what those of us who have practiced and taught in this area have long recognized. Media and entertainment law is a field of study that is dynamic, intellectually challenging, and greatly enriches the law school curriculum. And that's primarily what I'm here to talk to you about today, the value of this field of academic study. And let me unpack each of those three qualities for you. First, how is this field dynamic? That stems from what we mean by media and entertainment law, a wide array of subjects that a lawyer in these industries will encounter: intellectual property, contract, labor and employment, First Amendment law, cyberspace and privacy law, antitrust, even immigration and international law. As Alan will soon tell you in describing his role in the media and entertainment landscape, his career has been one of constant learning, adapting, and pivoting as the industry has evolved and new legal needs and challenges emerge. Second, what is intellectually challenging about this field? Features of the media, entertainment, and sports industries put illuminating pressure on the law. Standard application of legal doctrine often proves inadequate when confronted with some of the unique attributes of these industries. For example, how should the First Amendment be applied to movie trailers? Are they mere advertising and therefore a less protected form of speech? When and how does antitrust permit cooperation among sports entities because it's necessary to the creation of a desirable entertainment product. Cases like these frequently require us to reconsider what we know about law, economics, and society. They force us to think more deeply about the underlying aims and logic of the law, a valuable intellectual and pedagogical enterprise. And third, how does media and entertainment law enrich the law school curriculum? Because structuring a course around an industry like media or entertainment equates to teaching context. It situates the legal concepts and doctrines students have learned in an ecosystem where those concepts intersect and often collide, and where your client's problems cannot be neatly categorized but require cross-disciplinary expertise. Contextualized learning teaches students how the practice of law differs from the classroom in demanding nuance, flexibility, and creativity. It offers a rich platform for teaching essential skills in problem solving, contract drafting, negotiation, client counseling, business planning. Wherever our students wind up in their careers, an education in media and entertainment law will establish knowledge, skills, and habits of mind that will set them up for success. So I want to say a few words about our students and what they have contributed on their own initiative to entertainment and sports programming at the school. In my role as faculty advisor to the Brooklyn Entertainment and Sports Law Society, BESLS, and also to the Brooklyn Sports and Entertainment Law blog, the BCEL blog, we're big on acronyms here, I have a front row seat to the students' entrepreneurial spirit, their industry, and their commitment to advancing this area of study and professional development. BESLS hosts 4 to 6 events each semester, bringing to campus industry professionals and thought leaders. Examples this academic year alone include an all-day sports law symposium, an all-day entertainment law symposium, and evening panels addressing things like the writer's strike, government support for the arts, the talent agency business, art law. And the BCEL blog features writing by members of the BLS community, primarily students, offering legal analysis and commentary on industry developments and trends. In a typical academic year, 20 to 30 articles are posted on the blog, most recently on the application of copyright to generative artificial intelligence, on conflicts over music royalty payments, and greenwashing in the fashion industry. Our students truly are the champions of our media and entertainment law presence in New York and nationally. No constituency cheered louder when Alan's gift was announced. And it is on behalf of them that I am most grateful for the opportunities this gift creates. So Alan is justifiably proud of being the first, and so far the only lawyer, inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for empowering his clients to pursue and creatively control their art. Our students would roundly induct him into the Brooklyn Law School Hall of Fame for empowering them to pursue their desired careers. And for that, we thank you very much. And I now want to introduce our next speakers, who are 2 of the students that I just alluded to. Haley Zenenberg, who is currently president of BESLS, the Brooklyn Entertainment and Sports Law Society, as well as co-managing editor of the BCEL blog, and Henry Callender, who's a BESLS film and TV delegate and has a storied career in film and television production before even coming to law school. So Henry and Haley, please take the mic.
Good evening, everyone. It is such a pleasure and an honor to be here tonight celebrating the establishment of the Alan Grubman Chair in Media and Entertainment Law. For those who don't know me or didn't just hear Professor Balsam's announcement, I'm Haley Zenenberg. I'm a 3L here at Brooklyn Law School. And the story goes, I applied to Brooklyn Law while completing my undergraduate degree in film and television at Boston University. I was initially drawn to the school. I initially was drawn to the school largely due to its growing reputation in entertainment law, and I soon became well aware that this was in no small part related to the very accomplished alumni from BLS in the field of entertainment and media, one of whom we get the opportunity to thank and celebrate here tonight. While at BLS, through the mentorship of and guidance of fantastic professors, amazing alumni and peers. I've had an amazing legal education and have had the opportunity to dive headfirst into my love for entertainment law. As you just heard Professor Balsam say, I'm currently the president of Bezels, and which I'm proud to say has become the largest student-run organization on campus. I'm also a managing editor of the Brooklyn Sports and Entertainment Law blog, and I'm nearly done completing a certificate in IP, Media, and Information Law. Additionally, Brooklyn Law has prepared me to work at incredible companies and organizations like Sony Music, Law and Sport, and BLS's own Blip Clinic. As Dean Meyer mentioned, in April 2023, Billboard magazine named BLS number 2 in the country on its list of leading law schools for top music lawyers. In that same month, The Hollywood Reporter named BLS number 9 on its annual list of top law schools in the country for aspiring entertainment lawyers. Icons like Mr. Grubman are clearly responsible for this growing notoriety, and with the establishment of this chair, the sky's truly the limit for Brooklyn Law. And most importantly, you're actively inspiring the culture of BLS alumni, paying it forward to the attorneys that come after them. As I enter the next phase of my legal career, I'm confident that as a product of Brooklyn Law's media and entertainment community, that I've been armed with the necessary tools to be successful. Again, I know I speak for the student body when I say thank you to Mr. and Mrs. Grubman for your generous support of Brooklyn Law's future entertainment and media lawyers. While I have your attention, Mr. Grubman, my resume is under your seat. And if you happen to lose that one, don't worry. The friendly staff here tonight have been given copies and have been handsomely tipped. So we make sure that you don't leave with anything less than 2 copies. Mr. and Mrs. Grubman, thank you once again. This truly means so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here today. It was such a pleasure to be asked to give a little background on entertainment and media law in my experience at Brooklyn Law School. My name is Henry Callender, and like Haley, I'm also a 3L, and I'm a member of many groups at Brooklyn, including Alternative Dispute Resolution, BIZLS, and I'm also an advanced student in Brooklyn's Incubator and Policy Clinic, otherwise known as BLIP. Where this semester I am specifically focused on helping a friend and client's startup entertainment production company get off the ground. My journey to law school was very long. After growing up in California, I graduated from Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. with a government major and a film studies minor. I worked for 3 years as a television producer, starting at CBS News, Cheddar, and then as a political producer at MSNBC. At MS, I became very close to my anchor and my boss, Ali Velshi, who had gone to grad school as an MBA and helped convince me to give media law a shot. In that decision, I realized that Brooklyn Law School was the perfect place for me because of its connection to media and entertainment, as I knew I really wanted to develop my passion for that area of law. It wasn't just the number of alums in entertainment and media from our law school. It was the commitment that Brooklyn showed to entertainment in specific media-related courses, an intellectual property certificate, and of course, the student group that I've been involved with, BES, LS, BIZLS, the acronyms just abound at the school. I've actually had the privilege of working closely with Haley in that group all 3 years of law school. It's been fantastic. And my journey is just beginning. I was recently accepted to a position at Gordon Reese Scully Mansukhani's New York office as a law clerk. And upon passage of the bar, I will be an associate. And even though my area of law will be in corporate and employment law, I know that my experience through my passions of law in school will help provide me guidance in continuing my pursuit of media law as I work my way through a big firm. I know that this new chair position will be incredible for students to have an easier time, not just connecting to alumni, but also to opportunities for externships and even careers after school. Thank you so much, Mr. Grubman, for such an amazing opportunity for our school to shine as one of the top law schools for entertainment, media, music, sports, the whole shebang. You're making a huge difference for students like Haley and myself. Thank you very much.
All right, well, now it's my great privilege to introduce the 2 stars of the program this evening, who, of course, require no introductions. Bryant Gumbel is, of course, a legend and pioneer in broadcast journalism, born in New Orleans and raised in Chicago. I believe, to a father who was a lawyer and judge. He began his career on air in Los Angeles before moving on to the national networks, ultimately including NBC, of course, CBS, PBS, over the years. At NBC, he was, of course, the anchor of the Today Show for 15 years, succeeding Tom Brokaw, and becoming the first black anchor of any network morning show. He remained the longest-serving and iconic anchor of that show before moving on to HBO's Real Sports, where he led for 29 years before finally stepping away only in the past couple of few months. Over the years, he's racked up dozens of the most significant awards in journalism, a slew of Emmys, Peabodys, and many more, both for his sports and his news journalism with HBO, Today, and other networks. He is also a longtime friend and client of Alan Grubman, and we could not be more honored to have him flesh out the remainder of Alan's biography by doing what he does better than anyone else, interviewing our own Alan Grubman. So, welcome.
First of all, thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. Appreciate it. You too.
Thank you.
We're going to just try to, I don't want to say have fun with this. We'd like to flesh out Alan's career and what's brought him to this point right now and how he feels about the state of the world, state of entertainment industry, and a few other stories along the way. I've known you not your entire life, but I've known you a long time. So let me start with this. I'm not going to ask you to rank all the things that have happened in your life, but how big a deal is tonight?
It's a big deal. You know, throughout your career, people will say nice things and things that you've accomplished, but I really wanted to do something to give back to Brooklyn Law School. When I speak a couple of minutes afterwards, I'm going to be saying, if I didn't go to Brooklyn Law School, God knows what would have happened to me. I probably would have been a very successful garment center salesman, and that would have been it. So, you know, I owe so much to the school, so much, that for me to be able to give back by creating this chair, which I think will be very productive, it makes me happy. And, you know, at a certain point in time, the things that make you happy become less and less. But this really makes me happy. And I really feel great about this.
Okay, so
I said to my grandkids, who I'm very focused on, I really enjoyed being inducted into the Hall of Fame. But this to me is much, much more important, much, much more meaningful, and much more lasting.
So there were and there are a number of ways in which you could have shown your gratitude. Why this gift and why now?
This gift, because I was speaking to somebody before. When I wanted to be an entertainment lawyer, when I was a student here, there really was no, what's the fancy word? There was no entertainment bar. There were very, very few entertainment lawyers. But I don't want to go through too much of my history, but when I was a child, I was a performer. I grew up
a singer.
A singer, correct. I grew up in a very middle-class family, and my mother, who was a stage mother, pushed me onto this television show called the Horn and Hardart Children's Hour. A lot of this stuff people probably know. And I was on it for 2 years, and I was exposed to things I was never exposed to. Let me rephrase. Every Saturday, they'd pick me up in a limousine and take me into the city for rehearsal. In Brooklyn, the only time you were ever in a limousine was when a family member died, and you were in the car right behind the hearse. That was it. Now, all of a sudden, every Saturday morning, I'd be going. They take us to the best restaurants in New York after rehearsal. And if you lived in Brooklyn, when I lived in Brooklyn, now it's a whole different world. Now everybody wants to move back to Brooklyn. But when I lived in Brooklyn, you went to two restaurants. You went to a deli, or you went for Chinese food. That was it. And now all of a sudden I was being exposed to this new world that had an enormous impression on me. At the age of 13, my voice changed. That was the end of that. And then when I went to law school, I remembered how glamorous, how much fun being exposed to the entertainment industry. I knew I didn't have any talent. My voice was gone. So I decided to become an entertainment lawyer. And I pursued it. Thank God I was very successful. But that's basically how I got into entertainment law and why it's so important for me to do what I'm doing today here. It's a phenomenal area of law. It's not only very important, it's not only fun, but you're actually doing something that affects everybody. Everybody in the world loves music, loves movies, loves television, loves sports. It's something that it touches every human being, and not every area of law touches every human being. So that's basically how I did this.
I don't want to leave the impression that you haven't given to the law school before, because you have. You gave a gift of the Joe Correa reading room to BLS before. Tell us about Joe Correa and what he meant to your life.
Okay, so basically you're reducing my speech dramatically afterwards, which
Okay,
is
fine.
fine.
I'll leave.
Okay.
No, you don't have to.
No,
Just give us the basics.
I'm going to tell you now, so I won't. Let me tell you, it's a great story. To me, it's the greatest story of my life. When I went to Brooklyn Law School, your first semester, you took two courses. I don't know if this is still the case. Torts and contracts. They were 6 credits. If you failed either one of them, the party was over. It isn't like Harvard that very few people drop out of Harvard. But in my day, 50% of the students that started Brooklyn didn't get through. So I take the torts final, 40-point essay. I wrote an essay that sounded like I was speaking in German. It was a complete disaster. And I knew that I was toast. Why? Because a 40-point essay gives you a 60, F, boom. So a friend of mine suggested that I call Professor Correa. So I said, where am I going to find him? He said, look in the telephone book. So I look in the telephone, Joseph Correa. I call him up, and I said, Professor Correa, this is Alan Grubman. That's how I pronounced it. So he said, who are you? I said, I'm in your torts class. Okay, so? And then I told him what happened, that I blew the 40-point essay, blah, 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 and, I'm going to fail. And he said something that changed my life. He said, listen, I don't know who you are, because I never raised my hand. I don't know who you are. But if you take the rest of your classes and you get C's or better, I always focused on the C's, I'll give you a D. That's how I became a lawyer. So now, many years later, and I owed him my life. Many years later, I get a call from Dean Traeger, who was then the dean of the law school. And so one of my assistants says, Dean Traeger's on the phone, and I reverted to a student at Brooklyn. What did I do? So he says, I'd like to come and see you. So he comes to my office with these tubes under his arm. And he says, we've been following your career, and we're very proud of you, and we're building a new extension. So he says, do you have a conference room here? I said, yeah. So I go into the conference room. He opens up the plans, and I knew immediately I had made a decision that I was going to do something. So I see this double height ceiling. I said, what's that? He said, the library. I said, the library? That's sort of interesting. So I said, is it going to be, and he describes it, it's double height, you walk up, it's going to be. So I decide that I'm going to donate the library. This is where I can get emotional. I said, is Joseph Crea still teaching? He said, yes, he's 85. However, he was in his late 80s. I said, I'm naming the library after him. He said, what? I said, I'm naming the library. He expected it to be the Alan Grubman and Debbie Grubman Library, although we did get credit. but the Joseph, he says, why? I told him the story. He said, that's really fascinating. To make a long story short, it's called the Joe Crea Library. But this is funny. Now, this conversation I had with Professor Crea was 25 years before this happened. I get a call from Joe Crea. Grubman, I remember that conversation like it was yesterday. I got such a kick out of it. And naming the library, or I think they call it the reading room, after him was one of the most important things I ever did in my life. Because the impact he had on my life, I mean, it's incomprehensible. It's comprehensible, but for me, it's incomprehensible.
You said that you were, I'm going to quote you, at best a mediocre student.
At best.
All right, I get it. How much of that is truth and how much of it is modesty?
Totally true. I can get into a dissertation about IQ and EQ, but the IQ gets you the A's. The EQ is a whole other story. I was not a great student in college or law school. But, to answer your question, it's absolutely true. I was a bad, look what happened. If Joe Crea didn't pick up the phone that day, I wouldn't be here today.
So tell me this. So what, if anything, does that say that you could be so successful after being such a mediocre student?
Okay. IQ, EQ. We all know what IQ is. IQ are the people that are able to absorb material and do great academically. That's IQ. Then there's EQ, which is emotional intelligence, which I have felt was always more important. I shouldn't say that. Very, very important. I'll explain it to you. EQ is the emotional intelligence, the ability to relate to people, the ability for people to like you, the common sense, the ability to take chances. In other words, you wrap it all together. That is an IQ. That's the emotional intelligence a person needs, in my opinion, to rise above the crowd. And thank God I had a substantial amount of EQ, which allowed me to be a great negotiator and to become very important in my chosen field. So the answer to your question is, I wasn't a great student, but I was very lucky to have a lot of emotional intelligence. I want all you students to understand how important emotional intelligence is. Academic achievement is very, very important. To go to Harvard, to go to Yale, it always looks good on a resume. But if all you have is that IQ ability and you don't develop your EQ ability, your hands are, to a certain extent, tied.
You got out of City College, you come to BLS.
Yeah.
What did you envision? What did you envision doing? Getting your law degree and then what?
Well, I knew when I went to law school that I wanted to be an entertainment lawyer because of my experience when I was a child performer.
But you don't just walk out and say, hey, I'm an entertainment lawyer.
Well, then I'll tell you what happened. I mentioned it to some young lady in the dean's office. In my day, classes were from 9 to 1. Is that the case today, or did it goes all day? Okay. It was 9 to 1 because we all came from middle-class backgrounds, and we needed to make some money after school to support ourselves. So the school, because we're in the area of Court Street, which is a very big area for negligence lawyers, they encouraged everybody to get a job, part-time job at a negligence law firm. But I wanted to be an entertainment lawyer. So my first year in law school, I worked at the William Morris Agency. Does everybody know who that is? Yeah. Okay. From 4 to 8 at night in the mailroom. And the second and third year, I worked as a page at CBS, which was a breeding ground for some of the most successful people in the entertainment industry. So the second and third year, a page is a fancy name for an usher who takes you to your seat. They call them pages. They gave me a gray sport jacket with a CBS eye. And I'd walk into class and everybody would say, "What's wrong with Grubman? What's with this? The eye goes to CBS, he seats people. He's missing something." A few years later, they figured out I wasn't missing something. But so I always wanted to be an entertainment lawyer. So that's how I got my feet wet, by working at those two places. And then afterwards.
Yeah, they didn't pay very well, but your first job did. You got out in '67. How'd you get your first break?
Okay. We didn't rehearse this. He's asking every.
Sorry, do you want me to shut up?
Perfect. Every perfect question. We drove to today and we didn't say a word to each other. All right, so my grades were not good, so I couldn't prepare a resume. You can't put on your resume, "I graduated in the top 100% of my class." Can't do that. So I got a list of the law firms in New York that did entertainment law, and there weren't many in those days. It maybe was 6. And I literally went office to office, knocked on the door, spoke to the receptionist, and asked for an interview. And finally, a man by the name of Walter Hofer, who was a music lawyer, gave me an interview. And I'll tell you where emotional intelligence comes in. So he's talking to me, blah, blah, and it's going pretty well. And then I said to him, "My family doesn't have much money, but how much would I have to pay you to allow me to work for you?" That's EQ, by the way. He goes, "I'm hiring you $125 a week." And that was my first job.
That was good money then.
Even in those days, it was not good money. Even in those days. But you know what? I got my foot in the door, and that's the name of the game. That was the start.
You've talked about EQ. Let's talk about sechel.
Same thing. Sechel is the Yiddish word for EQ. Sechel
Well,
is
not quite. Sechel takes in a little bit of luck and happenstance that EQ doesn't.
You're 100%. If you want to talk about luck, I am a firm believer that.
I got to teach you Yiddish.
Yeah, I see it. You're right. I firmly believe that 75% of success is luck, 25% is brains. And I love to tell the story of Elton John. One day we're talking, and he says to me, "You know, Alan, there are 500 Elton Johns in the world. But I was the one that got the big break. I was the one that got that opportunity, which is the luck piece. And the 25%, in his case, was the talent to take that opportunity and become Elton John." So yes, it's everything that I described plus luck. Luck is, in my opinion, is critically important in a career, in life.
I know you work hard. Do you think the way in which you work is very different from the way most other lawyers work?
I don't read and I don't write. Is that a good start?
I knew that. I wasn't going to say it. I knew that. I wasn't going to say it. But please explain.
Well, three of my very important partners are here today. Larry Shire, Eric Sachs, and who's it? Oh, Joe Brenner. They will confirm this. So, like what I do, first of all, I'm a negotiator. That's what I do. But when there's a deal in progress, and the lawyer working on it will give me a one-page memo of what the issues are. Cannot be more than one page. And I look at it, and then we discuss it and move forward. So, so basically what I've been able to do is the ability to communicate, to negotiate great contracts for all of our clients. Our clients aren't only performers. They're the CEOs of the major media companies. There's Bob Iger, there's Lucian Grange, I can give you a list, and the media companies themselves. But negotiating is I guess it's an art form that you develop over the years. So that's basically what I do.
No, and I was going to give you more credit than that, actually. I was going to say that you spend most of your time burnishing relationships with people and strengthening them.
EQ. It all goes back to EQ. What you're saying is what I said before. The ability to develop relationships with people where they respect you, they listen to you, they'll take your advice, and if they disagree, that's critically important. The entertainment industry is controlled by 10, 15 people, all of it, whether it's music, television, movies, sports. So you have to have great relationships with these people, critically important. Because if you don't, I always say to the young lawyers, you get more with honey than with a gun. And that's always been my philosophy, that, charm will get you further than a pistol. At least I've experienced. Up until now, that's worked for me, but who knows?
Do you know all 10 or 15 of them?
Yes, I think so.
Although your early success was in the music industry,
Right.
you branched out into film and television. Why?
Larry Shire, who is here, runs our film and television and sports department. What happened is in the late 90s, the music business had gone into a downturn. People started stealing music. There was a dramatic change in the industry where people stopped buying music records the way they used to. And I got very nervous. I said, I don't want to be a one-trick pony. So I decided that it's time to expand. And that's what we've done over the years. Larry has his function, which he runs a very big department, which is movies, television, blah, blah, blah. Eric Sachs, who is here, we created a corporate department because we do mergers and acquisitions for transactions in the entertainment industry, of a certain size. So thank God that worked out. And now we're almost 50 lawyers. It's the largest media law firm in the United States. And it's thriving. And it used to be many years ago about me. Now, thank God, it's not only about me, it's about the firm, which makes me happy because it allows me not to work that hard.
As you noted, your success led you to move away from simply representing those who were performing to representing those who operate on the business side.
Right.
As a result, I can name several instances in which you represented both sides in a negotiation. Why is that not a classic conflict of interest?
Okay. First, I have a funny line.
I hope
If
so.
there's no conflict, there's no interest. Okay. But how it works, it doesn't work that way. I could be representing, let me pick, I could be representing Bob Iger today, and I'm going back a few years ago. And then everything is great, his deal's done, blah, blah, blah. And I'll call him a week later, and I'll say to him, we now have to talk about Barbara Walters and Diane Sawyer, using that as an example. The firm cannot represent, it will not represent both sides in the same transaction, but we can represent both sides at different times. So when I'm representing Bob Iger, we're killing for Bob Iger. And when we're representing Barbara Walters or Diane Sawyer, we're killing for them. And the beauty of it is that let's assume, okay, let's use Bob as an example. Bob saw the way I killed for him when I was making his deal. He didn't have to worry that the chairman of Disney said, give me a break on this deal, and the next deal, I'll make it up to you, something like that. He knows that would never happen. So when you get down to Diane Sawyer or Barbara Walters, he knows that if he asked me, give me a break on this, that I would get up and walk out of the room. So that creates credibility and trust. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm listening to you. Doesn't mean I'm buying it. I'm listening to you.
So that's how it works. We never represent the same entities on both sides, one at a time, and people trust us. It's worked.
It obviously has. I'm not going to argue it, although I could, because we've got limited time here. Let's talk about something else. Although you built the leading law firm in the music industry and collected an enviable list of clients, you're not a fan of modern music. Doesn't that seem odd to you?
I love Frank Sinatra.
That's not the question. That's not modern music.
That's all I'm going to say.
That's not modern music.
That is not modern music, but I love Frank. All you're going to do is get me in trouble. But I'll tell you something interesting. In my office, I have a huge, very famous photo of Frank Sinatra that was taken at the Fontainebleau Hotel while he was doing a movie. And it's on my back wall. And I never have a problem if Bono walks in, he looks at Sinatra. Frank Sinatra, Bruce Springsteen. If I had any of my clients, the other people would say, what about me? Nobody ever says, everybody loves Frank Sinatra. And I've gotten away with it for years.
Have you ever heard one of Bono's records?
Yes. Yes, I've heard Bono's records. I've heard Springsteen's records.
Luther?
You can go down the list, but I have a special place in my heart for Frank Sinatra. You're not going to get me off of it. And oh, by the way, and all my clients know it. It isn't like a hidden secret. If you ask anybody, oh yeah, Alan, Sinatra.
Finish this sentence for me. The best part of what I do is?
Making deals. I love to make deals. It's like it's like the Olympics. You're in a tournament and you want to win, but you have to win in a unique way. Which is another very important thing. When a deal is made and one side feels that they won everything, and the other side feels that they won nothing and they're upset, that's not a good deal. Because the person that feels harmed is waiting until they have the opportunity to get even. So that's part of the art of negotiating. But, when I call you up, and I called you up and said, listen, this is going to be the new deal, blah, blah, blah. I love those calls to you.
Except for I always frustrate you because I said you could all say whatever.
No, then you'll say, okay, I'll call you. But you know who likes it? Hillary calls me and says, ooh, that's good. I said, well, why don't you tell your husband? But that's what I love to do. That's my passion.
Finish the sentence. The worst part of what I do is?
The worst thing about what I do is when I can't love every client I represent. Worst thing is when I have to do something for a client that on a personal level, I really don't like. Doesn't stop me from representing them, I'll be honest with you, But those situations does not give me much pleasure. It's usually very difficult. So that's the worst thing I could do.
You want to play name association?
Sure.
I'm always wary of doing this. I always tell the story. Once upon a time in the Today program, I turned to Yogi Berra and I said, you want to play name association? He said, yeah, what's that? I said, I say something, you say the first thing that comes to mind. He goes, okay. I said, Mickey Mantle. He goes, what about him? True. So with that as a prelude, I'm going to mention some clients, and you'll tell some of the first thing comes to mind. Okay?
I'm listening.
Bruce Springsteen.
A great American.
Rod Stewart.
Very talented, unique voice. By the way, he was almost a professional soccer player, which was his true love. Yeah. But I think he broke his foot or something at a young age, and he couldn't move ahead with his career, and he started singing, and he had a great career.
Luther Vandross.
A sweet, tragic character. Luther was a gay man when it wasn't, how could I say this? He could never come out as a gay man, and he wrote some of the great romantic songs of all time. And he was a tortured man. I loved him. Debbie and I loved him. He's a wonderful guy, but tortured.
Elton John.
Genius, probably of anybody I've ever represented, from a creative point of view, the most talented person I've ever represented.
Mariah Carey.
I met her when she was 19 years old. She was dating a friend and client of mine, Tommy Mottola. And I started representing her. And she's one of the great survivors. She's now, how old is Mariah? She's like in her early, how old? She's 53. And she's just had a resurgence. So I would say that she's one of the great survivors I've ever known.
Bono.
Bono is a humanitarian. To him, he utilizes his music in his attempt to change the world.
Bryant Gumbel.
A dear, dear friend of mine who has had an absolutely unbelievable career in TV and probably will go down in history for many, many reasons. This is not bullshit. This is the truth. He is a very unique individual and has made not an impression. The impact he has had on television journalism is something that it will be very, very difficult to duplicate. How was that?
Just as I taught it to you.
Okay.
As we wind this down, goes without saying the entertainment industry is in a great deal of turmoil.
Correct.
Network television is upside down. Everybody's racing for streaming. The movie business is spiraling. Nobody's going to films anymore. You used to talk about album sales. Now it's just digital hits.
Right.
Is this a good time or a bad time to be in the entertainment field of law?
It's a very difficult time because there's a transition going on. The distribution of content in music, it used to be you bought records, you bought CDs, you bought iTunes. Now you don't have to buy music anymore. You have Spotify, you have Apple, and you can get all the music you ever wanted. And that has had a tremendous, in the music business, it has had a very positive impact on the record companies and publishing companies. And they've never made more money than they're making now, because in the old days, they had to press records, they needed distribution centers. Now, all they do, license to Spotify and collect after they sign artists, etc. When it gets to Netflix and it gets to the movie industry, it's entirely different. The movie companies now, Disney is trying to figure out, it's very difficult for the Disney streaming services, the Warner streaming service, they're having difficulty making money because it's so costly and so competitive. So the area of media, television, movies, is being tremendously affected by streaming, and nobody knows now how it's going to play out. There can't be 6, 7, 8 different streaming services because people do not want to pay $15, $20 a month for 8 streaming services or 7. So they're going through a consolidation now. And at the end of the day, there'll probably be 3 streaming services. But they're having a very, what a tough time Disney is having, Warner's is having, Paramount is having. But that's very different. The music business figured it out and is doing very well.
Last question. As far as the entertainment business is concerned, is AI the big boogeyman that everybody thinks it is?
Yes, because it's the fear of the unknown. It could be the greatest thing, not only in entertainment, in life. Nobody knows how, if AI is utilized in a negative way, it could be a disaster for mankind. If it's done in a positive way, it can cure diseases. It can do a million great things. And nobody knows right now how it's going to play out.
We've talked enough up here. I know we're supposed to open the floor to questions. So let's begin with Rich, the master of IMAX, Rich Gelfin.
So first I want to correct something that Alan said. I agree with it, which is, Alan is his house IQ. But he has one of the highest IQs of anyone that I've ever met. So don't accept that advice, law students. Because he's so smart, he takes it for granted, and he puts too much weight on the other side of it. So, Alan, as you look out on everyone,
I'm paying for dinner, by the way.
I know. That's why I said, if you look out on the students and you had one piece of advice to give them for their careers, you're on the back 9, they're on the front 9. What would the piece of advice be that you would give them?
Okay, I was going to say something about this afterwards. If you work hard, if you're ambitious and you're honest and you're lucky, anybody can be successful. Anybody sitting here. It's great to get A's, it's great to get B's, it's not great to get C's, but guess what? If you apply yourself, the most important thing is to love what you do. Whatever area of law you choose, if you have a passion for it, you have an advantage over everybody else. So all you have to do is love what you do, work hard, be honest. You have to get lucky, and you have a great, look at me. I mean, on paper, I wasn't supposed to be what I've become. But it's more than just what's on paper. It's also a lot of intangibles. So know, however you leave the school, you could be as successful as anybody else in the school. You could be successful at the guys that went to, how many guys at our firm went to elite law schools?
75%. Yeah, that's about right.
And you know what they all call me? Sir. That's it. Absolutely true.
Next question. You left him speechless.
Do you want to talk a little bit, because one thing you haven't really spoken about, which is I think something that's very difficult, is actually running the business of a law firm, which is not easy. There's a lot of moving parts, and it's a skill that you need to be able to succeed in what you've done. So,
our firm is very unique. Most law firms are very internally competitive. The one, if, in terms of the culture, what I've tried to establish, and I think successfully, the firm is devoid of politics. Every client is a client of the office. Take, for example, Lady Gaga is now going to be doing a movie. Most of her stuff has been done by the music guys. Now, all of a sudden, she's doing a movie. So now Larry's department gets involved. Now, if one of our clients decides that they want to start a company or have a company, Eric's group, which are the corporate guys, get it. In other words, there's no competition, which I think is critically important. In terms of running a business, I always made sure, this is one of my favorite lines, it's not about the money, it's about the money. So we run a very, very tight business, and thank God, it's very, very lucrative. But the business side of running a law firm is as important as the guys in the office drafting the contracts and negotiating contracts. If you have a law firm where everybody works together and nobody has an interest different than the other lawyers, that's the key, in my opinion, to running a successful law firm. Does that answer your question?
Anyone?
What motivates you to keep going and just like, you've had such a successful career, and to just keep going and keep continuing to climb the ladder, and just like, what? How do you do it? Oh, I don't really need this, but.
Full disclosure, the question comes from the grandson.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
This is my grandson, Harry. If you love what you do, which I do, and have the ability to keep working, one of the problems of being a CEO in the media business, and I've told every client CEO that I've ever represented, you're getting fired. It's just a question of when. It's not a question of if. I've been fortunate. I have a law firm. Nobody can fire me, at least not yet. And I love what I do. And what else would I do? Your grandmother would throw me out of the house if I sat home every day. So there's no reason for me to stop.
It begs a question. How many clients have cut you loose?
Who have fired us?
Yeah.
Over the years? The most famous one was Billy Joel.
I know that.
That was in
wasn't asking for the
1990,
name. That's all right.
over an argument that we had. But other than that, thank God. One of the reasons that we don't get fired, we're at a point now that there aren't that many other places to go because of what we've built. So it isn't like there are 4 choices. You can go to a movie lawyer, you can go to a music lawyer, you can go to this, but we cover everything, which gives us a lot of strength.
Gotcha. Yes, another grandson.
Another grandson.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate what do you rate the choice of going to Brooklyn Law School?
I'm going to give my grandson an honest answer. Because I did so poorly. Okay, this is really true. Okay, I didn't do well in college. Okay, so it never dawned upon me to try to apply to the elite law schools because I knew I wasn't going to be accepted. So I said to myself, I want to go to law school. So I think I applied to Brooklyn and St. John's and New York Law School. And the first school that accepted me was Brooklyn Law School. It isn't like I had a knowledge and a history of the law school, but I got an acceptance letter. You got it? I got the acceptance, and it was and studying at Brooklyn Law School was one of the greatest experiences of my life. And I compare notes to some of the guys that work for me who went to whatever you want to call it, and I just had a great experience at Brooklyn. Between studying and the jobs I had after school, which I couldn't have had if I went to an out-of-town law school. It was a very unique conglomeration of circumstances which allowed me to have a great experience at Brooklyn after the first semester and after Joe Crea saved my ass.
Young lady?
In addition to Joe Crea, who were your three best professors at Brooklyn Law School?
The one I remember was Professor Gilbride. And I remember him because he had the other 6%. Now he taught contracts. And I had Joe Crea, but I was asleep in class. I don't remember what he said. But I remember, I think he eventually became the dean.
Gerard Gilbride.
Yes. And so I have a memory of him. And who was the dean in those days?
Jerry Prince.
Breyer?
Jerry Prince. Jerry Prince.
Correct.
Yeah.
You win the prize, yes. That's right.
Yeah. And one more?
I told you I wasn't a great student.
Yes.
Being in the position you are now and having the career experiences you've had, what qualities do you now look in lawyers and new lawyers who are looking to work for you?
By the time, I don't do the hiring. The other partners do the hiring. But when I meet a young lawyer, now, they all, what we do right now, what we've done for years, we hire people out of the Sullivan and Cromwells, the white shoe law firms, because they work 24 hours a day, blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the day, it's been my experience, most young lawyers, if they had an opportunity to become entertainment lawyers, they have the opportunity, they would love to do it. So when I sit and interview a lawyer, I look for, they're all smart. I look for the personality. I look for that magic sauce that I think will make them more than just worker-bee lawyers. Personality, instinct, like you say, seichel, that's what I look for.
I'm not trying to take over the program, but I know you've got some prepared remarks. So
well, I killed it, basically.
Yeah, I know, basically. So I'm going to sit. I'm guessing they want you to do it from the podium.
No, I'll do it from here because there's not much left. We covered everything.
All right, can I sit down while you have the
floor?
have
a seat.
Thank you.
Be my guest.
Thank you.
Okay, this will not take long. This is a very, very special day for me. Very special because I feel, even more than the Joe Crea Library, I feel I'm giving back to an institution that gave me a life. Brooklyn Law gave me a life and a career I couldn't have dreamt of. A very dear friend of mine is a guy by the name of David Geffen. How many of you have heard of him? Okay. David Geffen grew up in Brooklyn, and he grew up in Borough Park, and I grew up in Crown Heights. And many, many years ago, Debbie and I and he were having breakfast in New York. And then I said, David, let's take a ride to Brooklyn. And let's see, blah, blah, blah. So we go to Brooklyn, and first I show him where I lived, Then he showed me where he lived. And then everybody who ever lived in Brooklyn after that went to Nathan's in Coney Island. So now he and I are talking a few months ago. And we're saying, how did we get here? It's like unbelievable because we couldn't even contemplate the lives we've lived. And it's very, very fortunate. We've been blessed. And I owe it all to my career, and I owe my career to Brooklyn Law School. All roads lead back to this building. Let me see if I have anything else. I said that anything in life is possible if you work hard, have ambition, and truly love what you do. Okay, this is critically important. It's not how you start the race. It's how you finish the race. Never forget that. You know, I remember in high school, there was the guy who was the captain of the football team, or Mr. Wingate High School, or the best looking guy, or the great athlete. And then I find out years later, in other words, they had their best years in high school. And I'll tell you, does anybody know who Mike Nichols is? Mike Nichols was a very, very famous, well, he was a great producer, film producer, but also he and his girlfriend had a comedy team, Nichols and May. And he had alopecia, what is it called? Alopecia, which means he had no hair on his body. When he was in high school and you're in that situation, not good, to say the least. So now they're playing in Chicago to a theater, and afterwards the house manager comes back and says, Mike, Rocky whatever, I'm making up a name, is here and he'd like to say hello. Rocky was the star of the basketball team, was Mr. This, the best looking guy, everybody. He said, he's here? It was like what happened to me with Dean Traeger, reverting back. He said, wait 5 minutes, wait 5 minutes. And then the guy comes in. He was like bald. He was like heavy. And he says, hi, I'm so happy to see you. Mike is saying this. And then finally he says, what do you do for a living? Oh, I sell insurance in Schitt's Creek, Iowa. You got the point? The point is, he peaked early. It's not how you start the race. It's how you finish the race. Never forget that. Let me see if there's anything else. The last thing is funny. When I started the practice is going to be 50 years old in May. When I started the practice by myself, I had a bridge table and bridge chair. Nobody knows what that is. That's a folding chair and a table that collapses, that your mother would put in the closet. And a telephone. Chair, table, telephone. And what I could say to you right now, if it wasn't for that chair, I wouldn't be establishing the chair for Alan Grubman and Media Entertainment. And basically, I'm done, but I tell everybody publicly, I went to Brooklyn Law School. Everybody in media, it's the truth. Everybody in media knows Alan Grubman went to Brooklyn Law School, which means they know what Brooklyn Law School is all about and what can come out of that school. I'm done.
You've done good.
You've done good.
Thank you all for coming.